Hey everybody, welcome to the Shot Clock podcast with me, Jago. Today's episode is with former UCD Marian superstar, St. Vincent's player. Made the transition into coach with Marian and Eanna, my former roommate, and I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point during the podcast. The one and only Mr. Patrick Glover. Pat, how are you? Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, Jago. Thanks for having us on. It's good to
Absolutely
be
no
here.
problem. No problem at all. How have you been keeping now that we're getting back out into the world and schools are back open and the whole lot? How's COVID now as compared to 6 months ago?
Yeah, pretty good, Jago. We're getting there. There's a bit of light at the end of the tunnel, as you say. So we've been back in school since March, so it's kind of been busy and hectic, and I suppose the stop-start nature of things hasn't really helped. But we're getting there, getting the leaving certs through. Good to see the number of vaccinations going up and people starting to do things again. So that's good.
Absolutely.
Life is coming back slowly. We just hope we don't have another wave of this. I don't think don't think anyone else can take another wave.
No,
But
I can take another wave, just not another lockdown.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's just you get to that point where you're going. Another's like I know we're sitting here on Zoom, but like for the last year, you've taught the majority of your classes in this medium. So I commend you.
yeah.
Are you one of these teachers that it's cameras on or cameras off while you're teaching?
Oh, you have to have the cameras on, but it's very difficult at times to get the students to put their cameras on. So some of them could be lying in bed and having a snooze in the middle of class. So it's been tricky and it's been difficult for teachers now, in fairness, and stressful for all society. But as I say, fingers crossed, we're coming out the better side of it now.
Absolutely. Look, as I said, I commend you for all you've done. It's not easy. And to the class of 2021 leaving certs, just remember your leaving cert. I know Mr. Glover here is going to disagree, but your leaving cert isn't the be all and end all. You know what I mean? There's life after your leaving cert. Trust me. I went back to college 12 years after I left school and came back, and I still have a career. So don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't stress. If it goes well, it goes well. If it doesn't, there's other options. That's all I'm going to say. That's my educational piece for today.
Absolutely, lots of options out there.
Excellent. Oh, geez, a teacher agreeing with me for the first time ever. Look, we'll start with the same question we always start with. Who, what, or why inspired you to pick up a basketball for the first time?
Um, I guess like a lot of young fellas growing up, I was playing a bit of soccer, a bit of Gaelic. Wasn't really very good at the soccer, reasonably good at the GA. And when I think it was in about fifth or sixth class, an American player actually came into our primary school, guy by the name of Ed Randolph, who you'll know very well. And Ed was playing for Marian at the time. So Ed came in to kind of start off, I think it was an under 12s or an under 13s team. So he recruited myself and another guy you might know of, a guy called Ray O'Neill. And we sort of became the nucleus of that kind of underage team in Marian. So I went down, tried out, loved it, absolutely loved the basketball. Unlike the Gaelic football and pitch games, it's indoors, out of the rain, suited me perfectly, suited the Irish weather. And there was a bit of flair to the basketball, So that's how I got started. So Ed was a very, very good first coach, an introductory coach, a friendly face, a very charismatic guy. And from there, ended up with some other coaches like Kieran Dunn, who was kind of I suppose you'd call him the Jerry O'Brien of Marian of the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Kieran was an unbelievable underage coach and progressed from there onto Irish teams and had guys like John O'Connor and Joey Boylan. And so they were all very inspirational characters along the way, and they certainly helped us become better players, that's for sure.
Ed Randolph, I played against 2 seasons ago. He was 59 years of age, playing Division 2 for Dublin Raiders. And he bet the shit out.
Yeah. Ed
You know
is
what I
still like
mean?
a young fella, yeah. And he can probably still dunk it as well. That's the gas thing.
He's so fit. Like if and when I get to 59, like I know for a fact I won't still be playing. Like it's just not happening.
You never know.
Oh
You never
no.
know.
No. I'm quite happy to just head off into the pastures fairly shortly. But you mentioned another few coaches there. Like we were both very lucky with our coaches, Joey Boylan and John O'Connor and Dommy, of course, with the Irish teams were fantastic for us because they instilled a work ethic that obviously the guys in Marian had already instilled in you. But our Irish coaches really honed in on what we did well. And John O'Connor was light years ahead of his time with his visualization and the whole, like that was the 90s when we were doing that. And now it's the norm, sports psychology. But that's 20 odd years ago when John was doing that for us. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, two very different coaches there. Like Joey, I guess he knew more about basketball than most people in the country, and Joey had kind of educated himself by going to the States during the summers and going to camps and all that kind of stuff. And I think he's coached over 25 years of Super League basketball. He's the only country or coach in the country ever to win the triple. So that's quite an achievement in itself.
absolutely.
But Joey was a great guy to play for, a real sort of players coach. And then John, as you say, John was great to me. I made my first under-19 team with John when I was 15, but it was the Irish under-19 team, and John gave me a shot. And he was a great mentor through the years. And I know he was tough on us as well, but he was doing all the stuff you mentioned there, the visualization of free throws, and he was into meditation and all that sort of stuff, which we as players probably weren't taking too seriously. But John was, John was a very, very good coach, in fairness.
Well, it's only now looking back, like when we talked about the Last Dance just before we came on, and you see the stuff Phil Jackson did with that, such a diverse group, and our teams were very diverse as well. But you see, I'm being polite here. But you see what Phil Jackson did, and you're looking and you're going, I was in that environment at 17, 18 with a Kerry man, you know what I mean, who believed in all of us and gave us that belief in ourselves, gave you a role. This is what I want you to do. And when you went and did it, he applauded you. And when you didn't, of course we got screamed at. You know what I mean? But look, we're better people for it. You know what I mean? And as a coach now, I'm trying to instill that same thing in my players. Just do your role well, and you'll go so far in this game.
Yeah, if you can get players to do that and got to learn their role, you're it's half the battle. And I think the problem today is with a lot of young kids, they're watching the NBA and they're watching these unbelievable dunks and 3-pointers and alley-oops and all that, and it's beautiful to watch. But you've got to be practicing so hard and you've got to be so athletic to get that good. And they try to do all that kind of stuff at underage levels. So it's about learning the fundamentals and the basics, and then learning what you're good at, and then working on what you're not so good at. So working on the weaknesses that you have, and every single player out there has them.
But that's the thing. I think a lot of players now think, I'm going to make an Irish team, I'm going to make it to the NBA, and they're not putting in the work.
No, I mean,
that goes on behind the scenes. Like we most Irish teams train twice a week if you're lucky, for an hour and a half. You know what I mean? It's the hours in between those 2 hour and a halves that you need to be working on your game, or you're going nowhere. Yeah. And the sooner players realize that, I think the better the whole country will be.
Yeah, and in the history of Irish basketball, we've only had one player to make the NBA, and that's been Susan Moran, the WNBA.
Pat Burke, don't forget Pat.
Well, Pat Burke, remote connection, I suppose. But
you had an Irish setter once or something, I don't know.
Yeah, you kind of nearly need to grow up in the American system and go through the whole high school system, or at least go through, a really elite system in Europe. To get that far. I think someday we will get an Irish player, hopefully a homegrown Irish guy to go to the NBA, but it's a bit off yet, I think.
Before we move on, just touching on that point, the players that are out there now, like CJ Fulton's going to Lafayette, where Paul Cummins was. You've Jordan Blount, Adrian O'Sullivan, John Carroll, who've been playing pro, Sean Flood playing pro in Europe as well. How far away do you think we are from getting that person to the league?
You have to get a special athlete, I think, a really special athlete, but also somebody who's got all the skills. And as I said earlier, like what CJ did. I mean, CJ went to a prep school at, I think he's about 18 before he going on to Lafayette. But you kind of need to be getting into the American system when you're about 13 or 14 and straight into high school there and spending your 4 years there to try and develop. But again, it's a huge risk, and you're putting your education here on the line, your secondary education, to do that. So there's a huge sacrifice for the, minute chance that you might make it. But and I think whatever you do, you have to have the education behind you just as a backup, because it doesn't always work out,
Absolutely. Spoken like a true deputy head. Well done.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I can't stop myself.
So moving on, as you said, you played for Marian for 10, 12 years, moved to Vincent's for a couple of years. over the years, I know like you've had some amazing teammates, but who's been your favorite teammate and why?
Yeah, you're making me feel really old there. I actually a bit like Adrian Fulton. I played my first Super League game, and I think I was just turning 15. I don't think I was even 15. Owen McKeown, who was the coach of Marian at the day, brought me in for a couple of games, and I got to play with some unbelievable players. Right from that time to the time I retired, which was at 35. So in all, it was about 13 seasons with Marian and about 4 with St. Vincent's towards the end. So yeah, some unbelievable players. The best player I played with, uh, I guess I'd answer that in 2 ways. So the best player to play with was a guy called Gary Edge. So Gary would have longtime friend of mine. We played basketball together since we were 12 years old, and Gary was like one of the top point guards in the league. Unbelievable 3-point shooter. Long arms on defense. He'd get in the passing lanes.
Big,
Yeah,
massive wingspan he had. Yeah.
yeah. He was a 6'3" point guard. And Gary could also get you the ball wherever and whenever you needed it. Like he'd pass it out on the break over the top of the defense. If you got hot and you hit 2 or 3 in a row, Gary'd keep feeding you till you missed. He always knew who to get the ball to at the right time. But he was the best player to play with. The best player, all-around player I played with was American guy called Kevin Ellery. So Kevin came from, he was starting 5 at Notre Dame University, played with some former NBA guys, David Rivers and LaFonso Ellis. And Kevin averaged maybe 12 points a game in his senior year in college, and then he played in Australia professionally for a year before he came to Marian. And his first couple of seasons with Marian, he was unbelievable. He had a couple of 50-point games where he hardly missed a shot. He was just a tough-nosed defender. His nickname was actually Bulldog, which he doesn't like. So if he gets to see this, he won't be too happy. The guy called Digger Phelps, who was his coach in college, I nicknamed him Bulldog, and that was to do with his tenacious defense. But yeah, Kevin was a serious basketball player, and the Americans of today, 1 or 2 of them are okay, but none of them are near the caliber of the Americans from that period in the sort of mid '90s to the early 2000s. They were special players.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. Completely agree. So over the years, as you said, you started at 15. I'm not going to say how long ago that was, but it wasn't yesterday. That's all I'm saying. But over the years, you played against some of the best players who've graced the courts of Irish basketball. So who was your toughest person to guard? And then likewise, who guarded you the toughest? I know that who was it that said you were the toughest? Was it Garrett McGuire?
Yeah,
Mentioned you as a nightmare.
Yeah, funnily enough, myself, Gareth, I was going to mention as one of the toughest players I played against. I guess we played against each other for about 10, 12 seasons up and down. And yeah, we had some great battles, and he might nip it one week and I'd nip it the following week. But myself and Gareth went hammer and tongs at each other. David Donnelly was a very good defender. Dave doesn't get enough credit, I don't think.
No.
The Donnelly brothers in general were very good. I played with Emmett and James, and I played a little bit with Dave actually in UCD, and I played against Carl, but Dave was a very good defender. But probably the toughest defender I played against, a guy you mightn't hear a lot about, Dean Kavanagh. Dean was a point guard with Waterford Crystal. And they used to put him on me now and again, but he was only about 6 foot, but he was really, really strong. And my tendency when I was guarded by a smaller guard was to take him down low and try and post him up. But Dean would get you out of the post very rapidly. He was strong as an ox and a smart defender, and actually a pretty good offensive player too. And I think they won the league there when they had Roscoe Patterson and Eric Blair.
That season.
Oh yeah, you've had Eric on. I see.
I haven't had Eric yet.
You haven't had Eric on, no?
No, not yet. Don't worry. Season 2.
Okay. Yeah, he's a good player too.
Yeah, he was absolutely super.
Yeah, Roscoe was once Roscoe got hot, he was very hard to stop.
Roscoe's agreed. Actually, Roscoe's agreed to come on, and I'm recording Dave Donnelly on Friday.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, Dave is a super player.
Yeah. I played him on one of these makey uppy Irish under 23 teams. Okay. There's no league, but we need an under 23 team. So myself, Rob Keane, Ewan McGrattan, Neil McCotter, Joey McGurk, Pete Madsen, Dave Donnelly, Emmett Donnelly. Jesus, who else was on that? We went over to England for a weekend.
Yeah, you went on the beer for the weekend. Basically.
It was a jolly boys out, and I'm not gonna lie. You know what I mean? Like John O'Connor did that wonderful thing where he went, "Now lads, just go and have 1 point tonight because we've a game tomorrow."
Yeah, that always works well.
Not when me and Rob Keane are together. Like, Jesus, it's like going, "Here, lunatic, here's the keys of the asylum. It'll be fine." Like, he's me and Rob in charge of the younger lads. I'm like, this is not going to end well. All I will say is 2:00 in the morning, Joey McGurk, bathtub, crying. That's it. I'm not going any further. That's it.
Don't say any more, Jay. He could sue you. He'd sue you for defamation. Be careful.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Sorry, Joe. Sorry for sharing. Look, I'm notoriously superstitious. I have the magic number 13. You know, always with me. You were my number 12. We were out one after each other with the Irish team. Have you any superstitions?
Not really. Never really did have superstitions as such, but kind of had routines, I suppose. Pre-game was always kind of similar setup at home, and resting during the day, and about 3 hours before the game have a proper meal, and be a rice dish or a pasta dish to get the carbs in. And then later in my career, probably from my mid-20s on, I started doing meditating, during the warm-ups, breathing exercises, and I found that really kind of calmed me. And by the time the ball was thrown up at the start of the game, I was kind of in a different place, and fairly chilled out, and never really got too stressed on the court, or too nervous before games. So, and I think that's something. It's something you have to practice like anything,
Absolutely.
But that 10-minute period after you do the layup lines and people are stretching, and you're on the floor, and the coach says, okay, you've got 5-10 minutes to yourselves. That's when I did my meditation and kind of got that done. So I found that worked. No real superstitions as such,
You were always the Iceman though.
I was relaxed. I didn't get too excited.
You were always chill. Like, I think that's why Jono and Joey put me and you in the room together, because it was like, right, he's going to calm Jago down, hopefully. Didn't always work.
No.
But most of the time we were all right.
I think you said I was your Steve Kerr and you were my Dennis Rodman. So
I was your Dennis Rodman. And you know what? I'll take it, because, look, he's a Hall of Famer. I'd take the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, why not? No, I was definitely the calming influence there. But we had good fun and good crack on the road now, in fairness.
We did. And it wasn't all bad. We actually played some decent basketball as well.
Yeah, we did all right. We got some serious players there. Connor Blount, Niall Murphy, Jason Sherlock, Garrett Winders, Paddy Boylan.
Big Shane O'Mara.
Shane O'Mara, Colin Moran, Ewan McGrattan. Most of those guys went on to play either in America or Super League, or, they all went on to fairly good levels of basketball, and some went on like Jason into other sports and thrived for sure,
He's an enigma, Jason Sherlock. Yeah. He is. I was only listen, Shane O'Mara. We recorded Shane there. I released it there on Monday, and we were saying, and again, it's the same story. If you picture your number one talent in the world, and me and you picked our number one talents, and there was an Irish team for that, within a month, Jay would have kicked one of us off the Irish team and taken our places, because he was such an all-rounder.
He was, and he was a brilliant teammate and a brilliant captain. And I've actually got him into my camps, and I've invited him into the school a couple of times to do talks to kids about difference, acceptance, dealing with bullying, things like that. So he's a really good inspirational character. And actually, someone I didn't mention there, Nyle Phelan, who was NCAA Division I, played at Robert Morris University.
Before anybody was. And he's forgotten. Fido's always forgotten. It's like, oh no, this person's the first player to ever go NCAA Division I. No, he's not.
No, he wasn't. Yeah, that's true. And like Fido, I think he scored 11 points in the game against North Carolina, in his junior year, before he got all the knee injuries. But he was a serious basketball player,
Absolutely. So such a talent. But Jay, getting Jay into the school and getting Jay into camps is amazing. Absolutely fantastic. For some reason, Garrett Winders keeps bringing me out to talk to his GA team.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, how's it going?
Yeah.
Don't do anything I did and you'll have a really successful career. So moving on, favorite shoes. I remember back when we played together, you were a firm advocate of the Patrick Ewings. Would
Yeah.
they have been your favorite kicks of all time, or is there something else lurking in a box somewhere?
No, I'd say they probably were. They were a comfortable shoe. I was a big fan of the Knicks at the time. They had a pretty good team. If you remember the games they played against the Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals, and
Brilliant matches.
taking them to 7 games and all that. But yeah, they were kind of the bad boys of the East. But yeah, Ewing was a serious player, and those shoes, yeah, they were nice. And then later in the career, I actually never thought I'd wear them, but I started wearing Jordans late in the career. I don't know how.
Bit flash for you, Glove.
It was. I had an array of Jordans, but I actually brought a pair along. This is my favorite shoe to wear in a casual shoe. So the retro 4s, they were a special one.
What a shoe!
Yeah,
what a shoe!
I remember Terry Strickland was the first person I saw wearing them, and I said, "Geez, I must get a pair of them someday," you know.
And you've waited until now.
I've waited 20 years later when my career's passed, and I'm too old to wear them.
Sorry, did you say 20? You don't teach maths, Glove, no?
20 years after Strickland, after I saw Strickland wearing them,
yeah. So look, moving on. It's you and 4 others going to the pickup game, going to the court. Who you taking with you? Look, it doesn't matter who you take, because if you've been paying attention, Elaine Scally and her team are unbeaten in 4 weeks.
Okay.
So for the crack, I threw up a poll and said, right, it's Scally's 5. So Dana Finn, Claire Rockall, Suzanne McGuire, Emer Howard, and Elaine Scally. And I put them up against the 96 Bulls.
Okay.
And it came out as a tie.
Yeah, well, I think Elaine must be voting a lot herself there.
Well, look, I can see who's voting, and you would be surprised the amount of people who are voting for Team Scally. That's all I will say. All will be revealed at the end of the season. But Glove, who are you taking with you?
Keep it real. I'll go with the lads that I grew up with and the guys I played with. So obviously Gary Edge would be the point guard. My brother Barry, who was a serious basketball player. So Barry would have been our 3-man. I have to give Neville Charles the 4 spot. So Charlie was a tough, hard-nosed player, dunking machine. Underrated, yeah. You should get him on the show. Actually, he'll tell a few stories.
Yeah, I'd love to. He's very quiet. He's very quiet now, though.
Oh no, Jesus! If you get Neville going now, you'll get some.
Get a few points into him, we might get him going.
That's it, exactly. And then the 5 spot, he's not really a 5-man, but I give it to him anyway. Kevin Ellery, the guy I mentioned earlier on. So he was our kind of the best American we ever had at Marian. So that they'd be the 4 guys and myself to go along and play a pickup game.
Are you playing yourself as a shooting guard?
Oh yeah, I started Super League as a shooting guard. I could actually move back then, believe it or not. 15,
Glover. That's the only reason you started as a shooting guard.
See, what you do is you start as a shooting guard, and as you get older and fatter, you go down. As you go to 3 and you go 4, and you finish your career between the 4 and the 5. That's the trick. You see, you started at the 4.
I played 3 with the Irish team. You would have been our 4.
I was ambling between 3 and 4. We had that kind of.
I used to be out on the wing. John used to throw me out on the wing. I had the worst jump shot in the history of the league.
Yeah.
John was like, right, go out you go. You have a quick 4-step. That's about it.
John had us running a weave around the top of the key with 4 guys on the outside. So it kind of it didn't really matter whether you were 3 or 4. So it kind of worked out all right.
You used to come off that so nicely for that little baseline 12-foot jump shot. And I've watched the games back recently. They're up on the if you're tuning into this, jump back and have a look on the main page of the YouTube channel. Our games are actually up on it.
You put them up, did you?
I have our 2 games, us against Estonia and us against Sweden out at the European Championships. Those 2 games are up there.
I actually don't think I can watch the Sweden game because I came across, I think, 2 or 3 times and held defense, got dunked on. So I'll have to just pretend I didn't see that one.
Yeah, and it wasn't me. You weren't helping me. I just like to point
No, I know who I was helping.
Moran.
I wasn't going to mention any names.
I will. It's my show and I can do that. Right, so we're going to change gears. We're going to shift lanes. Top 5 musical acts of all time.
Oh yeah, the old music is fairly old school, Jago. I'm sure you remember. So it's pretty much the likes of I suppose folky, rocky type of stuff. It'd be U2, Counting Crows, Bruce Springsteen. Like a bit of Tin Lizzy now and again. Was actually listening to Sting the other night, of all people.
A bit of Sting.
Yeah. The Dave Matthews Band were a big band that picked up in America. Mumford and Sons, those kind of bands. So that'd be the type of music I'd listen to.
Love it.
Yeah.
Always eclectic.
Yeah, bit of Jimi Hendrix. Always had a bit of Jimmy. Yeah. Still can't hear him.
You used to have. Was it the Purple Haze cassette?
Cassette. Yeah.
You'd bring with you on road trips.
I think you need to take out a sample Walkman and just show it to the younger viewers.
So somebody said something in one of the earlier episodes about cassettes, and I was like, right, you really need to Google this, because like it was a plastic thing that you put, and I was like, you know what, just go Google it. It's easier. But we used to travel with, like, I remember when Discmans came out then. And no pocket would fit it. You couldn't fit a Discman in your pocket.
You're making me feel really old now. Stop it.
Glover, I went out and I bought a mini disc player. Right.
Okay.
Because there was supposedly the next big thing. I paid £400 for it, and the only mini disc I could buy in Ireland was Robbie Williams' "Let Me Entertain You." So I had to repeat for like 3 years. Painful. Painful. So you're the DJ. What 3 songs are we warming up to?
Good question. I always liked House of Pain, Jump Around.
Absolutely.
Eye of the Tiger, I guess everybody loved that one. It was a good one to get you going.
Everybody said that.
Yeah. And then in Marian, the guy used to do the music, a guy called John O'D, used to play what was it? The Boys Are Back in Town, which is a great tune, but whether it was a basketball, but it was a good one, coming out of the dressing rooms, getting ready for the warm up and getting ready to go. So that was always good. Yeah. He's hanging out of the light here now. So
that's all right. Back in the day, we all could do that. Not anymore.
Yeah. No, not anymore.
Here's a tough one for you. You're sitting down with 16-year-old Pat Glover, who would have been my roommate at the time. What advice would you give 16-year-old Pat Glover?
I have to think about that one now for a minute. Just make sure I get this right.
It's a tough question.
It is. I mean, I'd say to all 16-year-old players, give it everything you have, leave everything on the court. Make sure that, you put everything into your game that you possibly can. And when people...
serenaded, I love this.
Yeah, this is good, yeah. So try and prove people wrong. That's what I'd say to you. So when somebody criticizes you, or somebody can be mean with comments or whatever, which you find through sport that happens sometimes. That's the time where you dig a little bit deeper, and you can learn a lot from other people. Some people you learn from what to do, and others you learn what not to do.
Absolutely.
So they're kind of things I'd always take with me, and just work as hard as you can, and leave it all on the court.
Well, to be honest with you, seeing as I knew 16-year-old Pat Glover,
yeah,
you did every one of them. You know what I mean? Like I said, nothing fazed you, or nothing seemed to faze you when you were playing. You know what I mean? It was like that was your safe space. You went on the court to feel safe, and most people did. I did. That's where I used to go to just lose myself in the game. And I think if you can do that, you really can't go wrong. You know what I mean?
You probably hit the nail on the head there. At that age, you're young, you're changing mentally, you're changing physically. There's a lot going on through adolescence, and basketball for me was certainly like a sanctuary. You went away, and like a lot of the guys, we spent 8-10 hours on the courts during the summer. Myself, Ray O'Neill, Andrew Jackson, guys from Marian, and we were there. My brother just had a great time, but that was the place to go, and you make great friends, and that's probably the greatest thing you get out of sport.
Absolutely.
The friendships and the loyalties you develop over the years, So
here we are 30 plus years after first meeting as rivals,
Yeah.
And here we are having a conversation about, the great times that we spent together. And
yeah,
I'm still looking forward to our reunion points with the rest of the team.
Oh yeah, that's coming up now, 2022 for sure. It has to happen.
Swear to God, it better. That's all I'm saying. Right, so second last question. Dead or alive, 5 dinner guests to your home when restrictions are lifted or vaccinations or whatever way we're working it. It's you and 5.
Hang on 1 second. We have another
All right,
visitor.
Aidan, what's the story? Take that jersey off. I'll send you a Liverpool jersey for Christmas.
Yeah. He has Liverpool. He actually is a Liverpool fan, he tells me, but it keeps changing every month, you know.
But that's all right. That's not it's the snowflake generation. But anyway, you and 5. It's you. Sorry, dead or alive. 5 dinner guests. Who are you having?
Well, I better say Aidan here.
Yeah. Well, he's coming anyway, whether he's invited or not.
He's coming along anyway. My daughter Aoife and Eanna are obviously my wife, and then I'd say my mother and my late father. They'd be the 5 guests I'd have for dinner. So
brilliant.
Keep it real.
Keep it family.
I mean, there's no point in me saying Michael Jordan. He's not going to come to dinner. You know, there's no point in me saying, you know, Sigmund Freud. He's not going to make it. You know?
No, he's not. He's busy that night.
He's busy that night. He's got other things on, you know.
So what are we having for dinner, Glove? That's the next question. Are you going to cook for us, or what's happening?
I'm not bad in the kitchen. I wouldn't be as good as yourself, but I think I'd be ordering in. I'd be ordering in some Kanara, nice little Pakistani food.
Lovely.
Really, really good food. Based down in Clontarf there. So yeah, that'd be the dinner.
Too.
Yeah, some nice lamb.
Oh yeah, now you're talking.
Or else you could cook if you like. I mean, it's up to you.
Look, to be honest with you, if I got to speak to your dad again, Glove, I'd be over in a minute.
Yeah, good stuff.
I'd be over in a minute because we had some good conversations over the years.
Yeah.
So, we've reached the last question. It's the easiest one. Who would you like to see on the podcast?
Couple of people I think would be good. I'd say Neville. Give Neville a shout. He definitely do it for you. And I'll tell you who'd be a scream is Mike Trimmer. I got to play with Mike in Marian for I think he came for us for 2 different spells. Around the time we had Jermaine Turner, and Mike was an absolute ticket. Like he used to come to my house, walk through the front door, sit down. My parents would be having dinner, and he'd sit down in the middle of them, and all he was short of doing was cracking open a beer and having to crack with my folks, you know. But Mike has made me laugh so many times, and then I played with him later in the career over with DCU Saints, Vincent's. So yeah, Mike Trimmer would be a good shout. And if failing that, Joey Boylan would be good too, you know.
I'd love to get Joey on. I would like just to pick his brain about, like, as you said, 25 years of coaching Super League. You know, like the amount of players he's had a hand in creating over the years is phenomenal.
Yeah, no, Joey's the professor, you know.
He is.
I actually got him to coach at my camps a couple of years ago, and when he came in, the kids were kind of looking at him. You know, these kids have no idea who Joey Boylan is, you know.
No.
But within 5 minutes, he had the kids in the palm of his hands, you know, and just so technical. And, you know, as I say, he knows so much about the game. And he got inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame there last year, you know, which is a great achievement for him. So, yeah, fair play to Joey. And I think everyone on the circuit loves Joey, you know.
You'd be hard pressed to find somebody who has a negative thing to say about Joey Boylan.
No, very, very loyal guy, very humble guy, you know.
That's you know what? That's the word, humble.
Yeah.
Sums him up. Perfect.
Full of integrity. Yeah, good guy, Joey.
Yeah. I might try and get him on. I'd love to get Joey on. Mike Trimmer.
Yeah, he'll make you laugh. That's for sure.
I've had some battles with Trimmer over the years. Have to say, I have a few bruised ribs, and him and my brother went at it hard out in Vincent's one night. Hard punches thrown, everything brilliant. Joe Robinson and Tony Burke were refereeing, so it was just let go. It was just like,
2 great refs actually.
I saw nothing. It was like, come on, that's all we want here.
There's my 2 favorite refs right there, actually. Tony and Joe. Great referees. Understood players, understood the game. If they made a bad call, they put their hands up, you know, and moved on with the game. And they always talk to you.
They let you play.
Yeah.
Great. They let you play. They'd warn you.
Yeah.
Get the warning from behind the clenched teeth and the whistle. Get your hands out of there. Oh yeah, all right, grand. You know what? Yeah, you've caught me. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, good guys. Look, Pat, really appreciate your time. Great chatting to you again. It's always great to catch up with a mate. Look, let's book in for those points as soon as we can. Yeah.
We certainly need to. Yeah, there's a lot of thirsty lads out there now at the moment.
There's a lot of thirsty lads. All because Jason Sherlock couldn't orchestrate an All-Ireland win in one game.
Well, that's it. You know, we blame it entirely on him. You know.
Absolutely. After and that, look, we sung his praises enough. Let's just take the legs out from under him. Yeah, if you'd have won that year, we would have had this point. It would have been over and done with.
Yeah, would have been done with.
No replays. It would have been good.
Yeah, thanks very much for having us on, Jago.
No bother, pal. No bother. Look, and I'll talk to you very, very soon.
All right. Take care of yourself. Take care.
Cheers, bud. Talk to you later.